Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil. And for this video, guys, I want to talk about the major bottlenecks in the game and when you get through each one, as well as some tips and tricks to help you avoid falling into that trap of reverting back into an earlier crunch in the game. There are sort of 6 major bottlenecks that happen at 5 points in the game. So we're going to cover these in our video, guys. So let's dive right into it. So the first one you're going to see is the credit crunch, right? Guys, the credit crunch is the one you're going to hit first. You will not have enough credits to level up all of your characters. And these are just 5 characters that I'm going to need to level up for Jabba the Hutt. Again, I think I need to do more than this, actually, if I go to my journey guide. Where, yeah, I mean, I still have, I guess I need to, we'll be good. I have Jawa at level 85. So those are the characters. Oh, no, there's a 6th. Aura. There we go. Yeah, so I still need to do one more on top of that. But the credit crunch is the first thing you'll hit. You'll notice that you just do not have enough credits to level and gear all of your characters. So your tips and tricks here to get through the credit crunch. Number 1, don't just gear and don't just level characters for fun, right? Don't do this. Like don't have your roster look like this. You don't want those characters. You want these level 1s. You also don't just want our 7-star characters because you get them there. Again, I'm at a point in the game where I can afford to do this, but each of these characters at 7-star is 2 million credits just to 7-star them. So I've already spent 2 million credits on each of these 5 characters just for leveling them up. That's a lot of credits. That's a significant amount of credits that you can use just leveling, just starring characters. So the other thing is your scoundrels. If we come down here, right, your scoundrel characters. These are the characters you use in credit heists. And so if you have 5 of them, you can compete in credit heist, which the max tier gets you like normally 5 million credits. And it happens, I don't know, every 2 weeks or so, which is the significant. I can remember back in the day, credit heist, you literally would sit around and just wait for credit heist to show up. It was brutal. Like, I'm not exaggerating when I say you just sit around for 2 weeks and then everybody would be leveling and starring characters after credit heist because there just wasn't enough of them in the game. Other things you can do, guys, participate in your raids, participate GAC, all those other events, and you'll get credits. And eventually you'll kind of move out of this credit crunch phase where you don't need as many credits and where you start focusing on the core gear. And this kind of, as you transition into, okay, you need a ton of core gear, your roster will start to grow. You'll start to accumulate those credits. To ensure you don't revert back into like needing crazy amounts of credits, again, follow those same principles. Don't just start throwing credits around because you've got them, sitting in your account. Make sure you're saving them, make sure you're hoarding them and use them smart. You spend them wisely and you will be so much better off that you won't end up having to revert back into needing credits. So with core gear, this kind of happens. And there's a couple of things you can do to avoid this, right? This will kind of be, okay, you've got credits, you're leveling your characters, and now you're running out of Carbanis. The smartest thing you can do here is don't over-invest. Don't just throw core gear on random characters because you need it. So if we go to my mission here, for the Darth Malak event, she needs to be 17,500 power. So you look, I barely have her over that edge. I think I needed to take her to gear 10 at the time to get her over. And then I think I even equipped this piece just to push her over that line. With my Zalbar, I'm actually underneath the power threshold that I would need to compete in the Darth Malak event. So I would have to go in here and equip a better mod. Let's see, I think if I equip like this mod here, let's see if I get over that. Yeah, look, I gained 46 power, and I think, is that going to push me over? Yeah, that pushed me over. So just by putting on that mod, I'm going to get to the point that I was at. And I do like the other one better, even though I've never used this character. That one, this is just, I think that's the one, right? Protection, potency, was it this one? Protection, who cares? We'll just leave that on there. We'll increase my power a little bit. No, we won't, because it broke the set. And see, guys, now we got all side tangent because I wanted to show you that and be all cool. But that's like the way to look at it, right? Is you'll probably eventually get to this point where you can maximize your roster. Look, 46, like moving down. If you just do this, you're going to be so much better off. So the characters I have here are all characters that I would love to equip gear onto. My Tuskens, you guys know, are a side project right now, but at the moment, I'm still able to compete in those galactic challenges. They're not in Conquest yet, so I don't feel I need to invest any more gear into them at the moment. Maybe down the line I need to do more and that'll be an analysis, but right now this is getting the job done. And then for these two characters, as much as I'd love to give them more of that core gear, I need it for other things and just have never gotten around to circling and getting them done. While we're here, guys, we're going to take a quick break. You guys know that in every video, I must hype up Wampa because he is king. Guys, I want to hit this channel. I want to get this channel 5,000 subscribers. You know that's the goal. Wampa will hit Relic 8 on a special live stream. We will dedicate it just to Relic 8 Wampa. You guys can see that happen. Guys, it's free to subscribe. I'm not asking you to throw donations at me left and right. Just asking you to smash that subscribe button, leave likes, and leave comments. It helps the channel so much. It gets Wampa to Relic 8, and it'll probably get my daughters into college. So I really appreciate all the support you guys give this channel. So the next two, I'd say, bottlenecks you will hit go hand in hand, right? They kind of form this bond, and it's Kyratex and Gear 13. And they almost have this inverse relationship where, and I'll use my Inquisitors as an example. I just checked on StarWarsGalaxyFears.gg, and I've showed you guys how to do this before, so I don't feel I need to skip there. But I need 2,000 total Kyratex to unlock Grand Inquisitor. So for these Inquisitors right here, I need 400 per character, which is absurd. For these characters down here, right, for the Gear 13 crunch, I only need, these are all older characters as well, which I did have somebody mention this in the comments, and I will say it here. Characters that were released before Kyratex will only ever need Kyratex on this finishing piece for Gear 13. That's the only time they ever need them. While our characters like Inquisitors who've been released post Kyratex will always need them long before that. Kyratex were meant to alleviate the Carbonti crunch. Really, it just created a whole new bottleneck. But again, they go hand in hand because while I'm farming my Inquisitors, right, and I'm gearing them up, I'm using those Kyratex, I'm going to accumulate this Gear 13 gear because it's taking me more time to get to the point where I need to equip it because I'm worrying about Kyratex. On the flip side, with these characters down here who I need at Gear 13, I don't need that many Kyratex. Like I need 500 total Kyratex here, like I said. I need 400 per character up here. So in theory, I could relic 4 characters down here. I could relic all 5 of these characters and expend less Kyratex than it would take me to get 2 Inquisitors to Gear 13, relic levels. That's absurd. But the flip side of this, I could do these characters, but I don't have probably enough Gear 13 gear to get me over the line there. That I would run out of this stuff because I would get through them too quickly because I have my Kyratex saved up. So that's why I said they kind of form this inverse relationship that if you're farming crazy amounts of Gear 13 gear, you probably have a lot of Kyratex. If you're farming a lot of Kyratex, you probably have a decent amount of Gear 13 gear because you're not using them at the same time for most cases. This is when you do, but like for Kyratex especially, if you're using them, you almost aren't always using the same amount of Gear 13 gear. So I want to mention them together because I think that this is a bottleneck that kind of presents itself together. Your advice here, guys, Kyratex, just don't waste them. It's the same thing with like your core gear, Gear 13, same stuff. Don't waste it. Don't be spending it just because you think it's cool. You really want to avoid what I did here with B2 and even BB8 where I equip some pieces and then I'm not going to relic them. Like I won't equip pieces on the sides here unless I'm going to relic that character. It's something that I hold myself to. I think it's a lot smarter. It saves those pieces so I have them available to use other times. So this piece, again, guys, is one that you need to view together. Even though it's 2, I think it really fits in nicely together. All right, so then you're going to hit your signal data crunch. So you've gotten them to relics. And then your next thing that you need is signal data. We'll talk about these. Just pretend they don't exist right now. But signal data becomes that next bottleneck. And the reason signal data, in the beginning, it's just you need so many, right? You're going to need a crazy amount of signal data. But then eventually what will happen is you'll need characters out of the Cantina, like Hondo. He's a Cantina farm. They just threw Sana Staros in here as well, who's a Cantina farm, right? I need to farm her. Kira, I can get her through the Galactic Bounty event, but again, another character that you need to farm out of the Cantina. Like you look, there are so many different characters you need to farm out of the Cantina that will take away time. Again, I'm doing Chrysanthemum right now, who's in the Cantina, right? But they're going to take away time that I could be farming signal data. And so to get through that signal data crunch, it's really just time that eventually, as you get all those characters done in the cantina, and you can spend more time focusing solely on farming signal data. My advice for players, again, don't waste, but how do you do that? And I think the best way to show this, we come down here to the signal data crunch, is you look at my Commander Luke team here. So I need to get C-3PO to Relic 7 for Jabba. I need to get Han Solo to Relic 7 or Relic 8 for Jabba. Then my Chewbacca is Relic 6, and 3PO and Chewie are Relic 5, which are both the level of requirements I needed for Jedi Master Luke. I then increased Commander Luke to Relic 5 simply to take advantage of datacrons, but that's it. So I only spent a little bit of signal data to take Luke from Relic 3 to Relic 5, just so I could take advantage of datacrons. As much as I would love to Relic 7 this character. I mean, I'd love to have this whole team at Relic 8 if I could. But I don't have the signal data to do it, so I just need to focus on those requirements first. Another example of this I would use is my Sith Empire. Actually, we'll use Sith Trio. We'll use Sith Trio because they're even lower. We go down to my Sith Trio here. I've got Nihilus and Traya at Relic 3. I want them to be so much higher. They're great characters. But at the moment, I do not have enough signal data that I feel I can take full... that by giving them to Relic 5, I'm not going to get enough benefit, or higher, right? I'm not going to get enough benefit that outweighs the signal data that I would expend. That signal data is going to be better used on Jabba requirements than it is to make them a little bit better for GAC. Again, that's just my personal opinion. So with this signal data, guys, same thing. Don't just Relic 7 characters because you think it's cool and you think you can. Think is Relic 3, is Relic 5 enough? That you can always add that signal data later on down the line. If I have if my Luke was Relic 7, I can't take his stuff off and give it to somebody who's a Galactic Legend requirement. It's on there for good. Same thing with the gear, but I think with signal data, it's even a little bit more exacerbated just because of eventually you need a ton of it. Which leads to the final crunch in the game, which is your Relic Salvage. And again, you guys saw that. I kind of mentioned it here, where these pieces down at the bottom start to become your crunch. And even for end game players, if we go here to your, oops, that's GAC. Come on, there we go. Come over here to your scavenger. I'm in a huge horde phase for Jabba. This is not what my inventory normally looks like, particularly for these two pieces. But even your Gerda keypads, impulse detectors, symbol cards, all these things, that becomes your new crunch. That you have every character out of the cantina. You're going to get them all to relics long before you have them all at Relic 7, Relic 8, Relic 9. So these pieces become that final hurdle for you. Those are the pieces that eventually become that crunch. Again, I mean, you'll hit that with other things before it, but eventually, right after you hit Relic 7, as you saw with Jedi Master Kenobi, you no longer need these pieces. That you only need these and up, which was a really nice change. Again, super helpful, especially with the way that you need relics in this game at the moment. But the advice here, again, very similar to the signal data. Don't just waste it, on characters. Be a little bit smarter with it. But the other thing here is also just understanding when a certain character is at that point where I would love to get Kenobi to Relic 9. I'd love to get all my Galactic Legends to level 9. Or to Relic 9. But I need to be smarter with that. I need to pick and choose my battles. You look, my Commander Ahsoka Tano and Teen Ahsoka are both Relic 6 still. I just don't have the signal data that I feel I can invest in them, or signal data, the Relic Salvage for those Zimbaldo cards. I need so many of those still for Jabba the Hutt that I can't afford to just be spending these, even though I could, I can't afford to be spending them like that because they're so difficult to get. If you compare it, so you look at all these crunches I picked out, and they match up perfectly with the phases of Galaxy of Heroes video that I did, where in the beginning, your bottleneck is the credit crunch. Then as you move into the mid-game, right, you move into this mid-game, core gear becomes your crunch, where you've got enough credits, you just need those Carbanis and things, and as you're continuing to progress, all of a sudden your Kyratex and Gear 13 take over as you hit that mid-game. And then as you're hitting into the late game, right, and then you're late in end game, your signal data and relic salvage become the problem because you've already got a lot of these things, right? You're just waiting on those signal data and those other pieces to get these characters over the line. And so I think that those bottlenecks really tie in well with that phases of Galaxy of Heroes, where as you progress through each of those phases, your crunch changes. Again, remember, like I said earlier, if you guys are still watching, go ahead, drop in the comments that you don't want to revert, right? Don't revert in the comments. I don't want to revert if you're still watching at this time. So you hit that mid game and all of a sudden you're throwing core gear at everybody because you think you can. You're going to end up reverting back to this. This will become a problem and it's going to delay you getting Kyrotex and Gear 13 because you have to put your focus here. So that advice, if you guys are hearing, just because you're out of this Gear 13 crunch that you're really just in the mood for signal data, don't just start throwing Gear 13 on characters. Be smarter than that. Don't revert back to where this is your primary problem. You want to focus on one of these bottlenecks at a time. And it sort of just moves in this transition that as you continue to play, you'll see that you'll move out of each of these phases and into the next one. That's the video, guys. As always, smash that subscribe button. Leave a like, leave a comment. I love every single one of you. May the force be with you, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.